neighborhood board meeting slash candidate forum. We get Kizzy Texera, Brian Laurel, Mark Hashem, Tommy Waters, Conrad Kress, and myself. So please join in. I'll keep this live up, show out this team. And yeah, don't mind me, I'm tired. Take them out. Check out.
I'm sweating.
Right on, you're on live.
I know. Hi.
Is it live?
Yeah.
I saw her live.
I'm always live. My brother Conrad over there. There you go. T-Dub, Tommy Waters over there. And then you got Chris Lee.
Mark.
Okay, we're going to start. Mark, you start first on the first question, and then the second question we'll have Kinsey start first, okay? So the first question, how do you envision working with the neighborhood board during your term to address the concerns of the community?
Thank you very much. Wow. So I want to start off by saying happy birthday to you, Councilmember Watt. So it's his birthday, and thank you for coming on his birthday. Anyways, my name is Mark Hashem. I've been the representative since 2010, and I want to thank you all for your support throughout the years. The neighborhood board is a good sounding block for the community when issues comes up, like what we're dealing now with an issue that came up with Haina Elementary School. We've heard about raised crosswalks, right? That issue has come up in Haina Elementary, and the school wants to bring it to the neighborhood board. And that's a very good opportunity for the community to chime in. And it's up to us as the legislators to help the neighborhood board or what the community wishes. So in that case, if the school wants that to happen and the neighborhood board agrees, it's with us, that might even be city, so it might be Councilmember Waters or whoever and Senator Lee. It's up to us to help fund these projects going forward. So that's the way I envision things.
Thank you. Kinsey, how do you envision working with the neighborhood board during your term to address the concerns of the community?
I have been coming to the neighborhood board meetings. I have 3. So 2 are Zoom, and then you guys, I come in person. I've been coming since the beginning of this for about 6 months. And I feel it's very, very important to not only come to these meetings, but to start reaching out to the people that are either in these meetings or you guys. I've emailed a lot of people that are on the board because I do find the issues very important. There's a lot of issues that all 3 boards have. Ranging from things I don't understand, ranging to things that I do understand. So for instance, tonight, and one way I will work with the board is tonight I went onto the Nextdoor app a few times this week actually, and I invited all parents that are concerned with the new things that are happening with Neo Valley and Kaiser High School to come and show up tonight, and then I will be meeting them after my turn here. I'll be outside meeting with the parents that are coming so that we can come up with a something that I can come to the board with them and represent them in that, and then come up with a solution. So I will be working with the board because it is very, very important, and I think that it's the best way for us as representatives to find out what we need to know about our community. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Kinsey, you're going to respond to this question first. Honolulu's homeless population appears to continue to grow. What do you think are the factors leading to homelessness, and what will you do to address them?
Thank you for that question. I actually went door to door yesterday, and I spent probably about 20 minutes at somebody's door because she wanted to talk to us about the homeless community that has been creeping into her neighborhood. I had no idea. It was on Guadalupe, and so I had no idea that her particular house, I mean, we were walking the houses and they're gorgeous. I had no idea that this was something that we dealt with. Our church is downtown in Honolulu. We've had the church for about 15 years, and we just were robbed 3 times this past 2 weeks in a row by a homeless person. So I'm very used to that. We worked with the homeless in Kaka'ako for years. I worked with them for 10 years. And so, to answer the question, mental illness is one of the biggest things that we have here in Hawaii that's not being addressed properly. Another thing is I have been doing research and getting statistics from the other governors of other states that have been flying people in. That is another thing that is very concerning. And then some people say it's the cost of living, but I would say that that's a very small part of what it is. Most of the people that you run into, the ones that are doing the things on Wailupe that she was talking about, I mean, I won't say them online, but they were things that are only mentally ill people would actually do. There's a very small percentage of people that are homeless and are nice or take care of our community with us. So I forgot the question, but I think that I answered it.
What will you do to address
Oh, what will I do to address it? I'm already starting that. I've already started to talk to some organizations that are already starting to work with them, and I already have done that in the past. One of the things that we did when I was Mrs. Hawaii, I started an organization called Operation Neil, and we went into the homeless shelters and then taught them things so that they could get apartments, learn how to live in apartments. One thing that's people don't understand is they don't know how to use toilet paper. They don't know how, there's simple things that when they're raised on the streets, they don't understand. So I will continue to work with the organizations that are already putting a foot forward to do those things. Thank you.
Mark, same question. Honolulu's homeless population appears to continue to grow. What do you think are the factors leading to homelessness, and what will you do to address them?
Okay, that's a very good question, and that's a very difficult question, because I've always said homeless is not the underlying issue. Homelessness is a symptom of a greater issue that the person has. And so every single person that is homeless has something different. It's either drug addiction, it's either housing, it's either mental illness, it's some other factor in their life that caused them to become homeless. So there's no one blanket situation that you can come in and say, this is what we need to do to solve homelessness. If it was that simple, we would have already done it. We have Housing First. That's probably the most effective tool for the homeless situation. Housing First is when you, instead of having people go through the continuum of care, you put the person into a housing unit first, hence the name Housing First. Other jurisdictions have done this before in the past. Salt Lake City is a prime example of when using Housing First to tackle the homeless issue. It really helps because when you put a homeless person into shelter, a lot of their stresses go away. And the city council has been very, kudos to the city council. They have been, and the state for that matter, we put tens of millions of dollars every year just to combat the homeless issue. And it's still a very difficult issue for us to tackle. So it's a slew of solutions. There's not just one.
All right. Mark, you will respond first to this question. What do you think you can do as an elected official to address the increasing frequency of road and residential flooding in East Honolulu?
Oh, thank you very much. That's another difficult one. I think of all the really tough questions. So that's, as you remember, back in 2017, was it? No, it was earlier than that. 3 years ago, we had that massive flooding in Aina Haina. And that was an issue where our current infrastructure is not up to the current, not the current standards, but the bridge in Aina Haina was set for a 100-year flood. Now we're getting 100-year floods more often. So the real solution is we need to raise, well, what we need to do in Aina Haina, we need to raise the bridge, and we need to take that underlying post. But this is a bigger issue of climate change, and I was thinking about this because for us in East Honolulu, we have one road in and one road out. Remember back in the 80s when that road got shut down? As climate change continues down the road, that road, Kalanianaole Highway, is only a few feet above water. We're going to need to raise that in the near future. If we're going to go down this path and climate change and sea level rise happens as they predict, this is a long-term solution that we need to start looking at today, where we're going to need to raise all the bridges going down there. We're going to need to raise the road a few feet, and this is going to, well, we went to the repaving just a few years back, and remember that headache? This is going to be even a bigger one, so good question. It'll cost millions too, so.
Kinsey, same question. What do you think you can do as an elected official to address the increasing frequency of road and residential flooding in East Honolulu?
I was hoping I wouldn't get this question. I don't know as much about this situation, but I have been researching it because I know that it has gotten brought up at all of my board meetings. I'm a little confused because I was researching and I actually have the papers here. I read that they gave Senator Schatz gave $1.8 million towards it, and I don't quite understand where exactly that went and what has been done, because as I was doing my research, I haven't seen much that's actually happened besides flooding year after year. So I guess what I would do first is find out exactly what it is that has been done, what hasn't worked, what has worked. A lot of it is people saying what's going to work and people arguing against that. So my first step would be finding out exactly what will work and really putting that on the top of my list to get done, because this is people's houses that we're talking about. And we know somebody that got flooded and it's no joke. They got sick. I mean, there's all these things that are happening. So it does need to be of the greatest importance. Thank you.
Thank you. Clarissa, we forgot the water.
We had some water for our guests that we forgot to bring out. All right, thank you very much for your responses. We're going to ask for a 2-minute closing statement that explains why the voters should choose you over your opponent. And Kinsey, you will start with this one.
I don't like talking like that. I'll just say why they should choose me. I don't really actually know Mark very well, but I will say that I am dedicated to be here at every single board meeting. If I'm not, then I will definitely send a representative. I am in the community already. I plan to be at every single thing. One of the things, and not to speak bad about anybody else, but one of the things that I have gotten from at least half of the houses that I've gone to door to door is that they don't even know our representatives, any of them. As a matter of fact, way further away than Representative Jean's place, people kept being like, oh, are you running against Jean? That's our representative, right? And I said, no, it's not your representative. So a lot of people just don't feel like there's representatives that are here to represent them, and that's a problem. That is why I started to run, because I felt that I didn't have representatives in the things that I needed to be heard that were very important and are still being done today. The education and things that are happening at the schools have only escalated since I first started trying to fight that, and I have still not, I mean, we can go all the way from principal all the way up to the governor. Nobody has been there to hear what the people are saying, and I want to be a voice for the people that are in our community because it's very, very important. Thank you.
Mark, closing statement that explains why the voters should choose you over your opponent.
Thank you very much. First, I want to thank everybody for re-electing me for the past 10 years now, and it goes by like that, trust me. The one thing that I do, that I can tell you, is I love my job. I love being a legislator. It's extremely rewarding when you can go out there, when you meet with the principals. For example, let's take this school right here. This school, I met with Principal Gu. The electricity in this building wasn't sufficient for just to run. I mean, it was barely keeping the lights on. When they plugged something in, the circuit breaker would blow. Boom. I met with Principal Gu. Oh yeah, it's so bad that they had to cage off the electrical box because if you touch it, you could get shocked. So they actually caged it off. Anyways, we put $2 million into the budget. We're starting the process to have air conditioning in this school. $2 million is just to to upgrade the electricity here so it can have a bigger capacity. When you, working with the principals, working really hard for your district, putting in the infrastructure that's needed, and seeing the result of that is extremely rewarding. And I appreciate the people allowing me to actually be in this position, because it's very difficult between work, family, and balancing everything, but I love it. I really do love it. Thank you.
Thank you to both of our candidates. Can we give them a round of applause, please? So these are the two candidates for House District 19, Mark Hashem and Kinsey Teixeira. Thank you so very much. Could we have the candidates for Senate District 25, Chris Lee and Brian Laurel? Come on up. Elijah is going to be changing the name tag.
Sorry.
And then grab one of the microphones.
They got their water.
And water.
Oh. Yeah.
All right, candidates, again, you have 2 minutes to respond to 3 questions, and then you'll have 2 minutes for a closing statement. And each of you will begin the first question and will alternate. So, questions for Senate District 25. We'll start with Brian Laurel. Name one specific issue you hope to address if elected, and describe the strategy you would employ to address it.
Well, I'm going to address an issue that's affecting us right now. It was an issue that my wife sent out emails and phone calls to Waters and to Chris Lee, the governor, lieutenant governor, and HECO about the Ratepayer Protection Act. This was designed to make sure our rates were stable. During this Ratepayer Protection Act, our rates last month went up $100, a month after that went up $65. And so there's no protection whatsoever. So when we write laws, or we write bills or author bills, they need to have teeth, they need to have processes, they need to have things in order so actually the laws that are written actually protect people. So when all of a sudden we reach out to them, they don't respond. We reach out to HECO, and then we find out that not only did he get a lot of donations for this, but all of a sudden they're guaranteed $200 million extra as our electric bills are going up and up and up, and that coal hasn't run out yet. So when we write laws, we got to be honest, we got to be transparent, we got to respond to phone calls and emails to the people that all of a sudden, if we haven't been honest and have written something that is harmful to people and has no benefit to our constituents, these are things we got to stop doing. We got to be transparent, we got to be honest, and we got to make sure that we are doing things that help people in the cost of living, not put them in a situation that actually is accentuating the destruction of our state. Right? It's very present to me, but we just dealt with that, and again, my wife is still waiting for a response. Thank you.
Same question, Chris. Name one specific issue you hope to address if elected, and describe the strategy you would employ to address it.
Thanks very much. For those who don't know me, my name is Chris Lee. I grew up here in East Oahu, and I've been really fortunate to represent the area in the House and the Senate in recent years. One of the biggest things, and Brian mentioned this, for me that has been front and center is the cost of living. And that includes not only cost of transportation, cost of housing, cost of electricity. One of the things that we've been working on is figuring out really how do you do that, right? There's no one silver bullet, I think, to Representative Hashem's point. But with electricity, there are a couple things we can do. Number one, we expend about $8 billion a year that we send overseas to import fossil fuels to run our power plants. That is just hemorrhaging money out of our economy, raising the cost of power to 3 times the national average. And our utilities, up until recently, could pass those costs right on to consumers, and we felt that. Fortunately, what we've been able to do is put in place, I think actually, respectfully, the same law that Brian was referencing, to reform the utility process. And instead of letting utilities just pass those costs on to consumers, now they can only profit and benefit when they actually reduce our cost to local residents, and no longer do they get off the hook for just passing electricity costs on to us. They have to go through a whole process and prove exactly what they're doing and follow the money trail. And that's really important because up until now, we have zero control over our cost of living, our cost of electricity because of the fossil fuels we rely on, which are coming from other places where we don't control what's happening in Russia, the rest of the mainland, and so forth. So the great thing is we're already benefiting from this right now. We've seen up to 20% reductions in our electric rates. Now, of course, our costs are up because the cost of fossil fuels are up, but it would be up an additional 10, 20% above where it's at right now if we didn't actually reform the utilities' ability to reduce those costs and take away their financial incentive to pass those costs on to us. So thank you for the opportunity to start to get into this. It's really like another half an hour to really dive in deep, but happy to do it. Thanks, everybody.
All right, our second question, and Chris, you will tackle it first. If elected, what steps would you take to make the dream of a performing arts complex at Kaiser High School a reality?
Thanks. You know, one of the things that I think we've heard and seen, not only here in this community, but in many communities around the state, is the need for these kinds of magnet complexes where multiple schools can use facilities that just don't exist. There's a great example right now in sort of the Pearl Harbor, Aiea, Pearl City area, where Moana Lua just had a brand new state-of-the-art performing arts center put in place. It's used by all these schools. We could have something like that right here. And we don't, because right now the nearest one is Castle High School on the windward side, and way far away. One of the things we've been able to do, working together with Representative Hashem, Senator Chang, Councilman Waters, and others, is get a lot of resources into our community. Just this past year, we were able to put in the budget, which myself and others had lobbied for, $2.5 million to make Kaiser completely air-conditioned and cooled. Same for Hahioni Elementary. The process we're looking at this year is to follow that same strategy where we're able to lobby colleagues and really make the case for our community that we can put in the money to start the planning and design process for a performing arts center that fits the school's needs and fits our community's needs, because it can be a resource for all of us here. And it's a strategic win for our community, not only because it's money coming in, but it's something that can serve, for example, the neighborhood board and be a new home for these kinds of forums with modern AV equipment that we don't have to pull in that cost to the city and everything else. So it's really exciting, and it's something that is possible. We know it. We've been successful pulling in resources so far, so I'm excited this coming year to actually make it a priority and see what we can do.
Brian, same question. If elected, what steps would you take to make the dream of a performing arts complex at Kaiser High School a reality?
Most people I've talked to dream of a less corrupt government. Most people I talk to dream of lower crime rates. People aren't getting stabbed and shot in town every single day. Most people I talk to have a cost of living they can't afford, and our bills, our electric bills are going to go up 3 to 5 times the amount because we're using fossil fuels in other countries that are going to sell it back to us at that price to try and survive. Is building a state-of-the-art, what is it, an arts center? Is that the biggest
It's a
priority?
performing arts complex, and it's a question that came from the students at the high school.
Okay, well, our students aren't the ones that are paying the bills. Is this something that all of you are interested in having over top of getting rid of corrupt government, cost of living going down, and worrying about crime rates that are going to affect all of our children, the stuff that they're poisoning our kids' minds with in school? Are we worried about a state-of-the-art, what's it called?
Performing arts.
Performing arts. That is not on my radar. Is it on your radar? If it is, I'll make it my priority. Is it part of yours?
Yes.
Anybody?
Yeah.
And that's more important than corruption, crime, and dysfunctional government. If that's, I'll talk to my constituents. We'll see what the majority wants. There is millions of dollars need to be spent on things that are going to save the lives of people here. That's just not on the top of my list.
All right, thank you. It's not a priority, it's one of many priorities. Okay, next question, and Brian, you'll respond first. What do you feel is the highest priority for the state to mitigate the anticipated future impact of climate change?
I'm probably on the oddball out on this, but the more research I do on climate change, the more I realize it's a political action plan. It is not something that's affecting our lives. When He said it's raining, we have a rainforest, it's Hawaii, and that's due to climate change. I'm not buying it. So I think climate change is a political action plan. It's something that's affecting our lives. We're on the verge of war right now. And all of a sudden we're talking about climate change and nobody can really put a number on it, but then the electricity, we're gonna be buying it and it's gonna go up, we're not gonna be able to afford it. And it's all because we're gonna get rid of fossil fuels, but we dump sewage into our water supply, but we're worried about Red Hill. We also burn our garbage here even though they charge us to offload it from the island. There are so many issues here, folks, and I gotta tell you, climate change is not our biggest priority. It's not our biggest issue, it's just not. I'm sorry.
Same question, Chris. What do you feel is the highest priority for the state to mitigate the anticipated future impact of climate change?
Thanks. I think this is where, respectfully, Brian and I disagree. Because I think issues are not mutually exclusive. We don't work on one thing at the expense of all the others. We don't put money into the Performing Arts Center that our community's been asking for years. And it means we can't work on crime. That's not how our communities work. That's not how politics, that's not how democracy works. There's 76 legislators from all around the state, and each of us can work on different things for each of our communities. And I think we can do them all. It relies on community engagement and making sure that we have the support from our communities to identify those priorities. When it comes to climate change, I think we definitely disagree here because we've seen the impacts and we felt the impacts here. We are paying out of our pocketbooks millions of dollars every year to pay for the effects of diminishing fresh water supplies, to pay for eroding beaches, to pay for all kinds of things that are getting worse each and every year. Say nothing of the hurricanes that we face because of warming waters around Hawaii. We're seeing in bad years up to 15 hurricanes. Having just one impact us here was devastating. That is directly attributable to increases in heat and warming. There's stuff we can do that. We can get off of fossil fuels, and the great thing is it does save us money. We've saved over $500 million here in this island because we've got off of expensive fossil fuels and we've started moving toward renewables. When it comes to sea level rise, we've already seen 8 inches of sea level rise in decades in the 20th century right here in Hawaii, measured at our harbors. We know that's accelerating. We know, for example, we have the highest and best resolution science on what that's going to mean for our coastlines and anywhere in the world that we funded in 2017 because we had to get ahead of this and figure out what's going to cost businesses, what's it going to cost communities. And we know that we're going to be spending $19 billion at least just to preserve the coastal roads and infrastructure around this island and our neighbor islands. If we get ahead of that, we reduce those costs for ourselves and our kids. We have to think ahead. We can't just think about today's quick political fix, talking about this stuff, ignoring it, pushing the can down the road. We have to be responsible.
All right, thank you. And your last opportunity, could you provide a closing statement that explains why the voters should choose you over your opponent? And Chris, you will be first.
Thanks. You know, do the normal political thing, talk about what we all want to do together and see, but I did want to just address one thing that Brian had mentioned, which I think is somewhat unfair. It mentioned that I got money because of some position I took on something, which is absolutely false. In fact, I haven't even had a fundraiser in the last few years. That is exactly what I've been working to stop in our system. I've changed the law to increase penalties for the kinds of corruption that we've seen, not just here, but around the country. Created felony provisions that put people in jail for 20 years for taking money for that kind of stuff, for intervening in elections, for all those sorts of things. That passed laws that create transparency in the money that are being spent, the millions of dollars in TV advertisements and radio advertisements that impact our elections. That kind of stuff, voters here, unlike the rest of the mainland, we have a chance to actually get engaged because politics here is decided by people at the local level. Our elections cannot be bought as long as we know who's funding them and as long as we're able to see through all the BS that we hear on the airwaves. Those are the kind of laws that I've been working on, and it's frankly offensive and hurtful to make accusations that have no basis in reality. I have to get that off my chest because I do this not because I get a paycheck or anything else. given up way more. And I think everybody who's campaigned for office, no matter what your party is, knows that it is a slog to do it. And no one I know does it for anything other than the best intentions, no matter what their views are. I do this because this is home for me. This is where my 5-year-old niece is growing up right now, and I want her to have the same opportunities, the same community, the same environment, the same everything that I had growing up. And I want her to have more. And I want that for everybody here, because we can do it. We've seen success when we work together. I think it's entirely possible, and that's why I'm here.
Thank you. Same question, Brian. A closing statement that explains why the voters should choose you over your opponent.
If he didn't like the last statement, he's definitely not going to like this one. So lies, corruption, dishonesty in government has to be gone. He hasn't put anybody in jail for 20 years. He's not a judiciary official, so he doesn't put anybody in jail. The fact is that he's not honest about the bills he writes. He's not truthful about the things. There was donations. It's public information. Check to see the donations, the thousands of dollars that EGO gave him. It's all public information, right? So not being honest about this stuff is why our government is corrupt and has a problem. I'm known for saving people's lives. I'm known for going out there and sacrificing mine to protect others. As a matter of fact, the fire department, the rescue tube down at China Walls was used 9 times to save the lives of people. I used it, 12 times. I used it 9 times. I rescued 4 people's lives last Sunday. I risk my life every day to go out there for people like you, because that's what we're supposed to be doing. This is public service. It's not self-serving politics. If you didn't like the last one, you're going to not like this one. We got to get rid of these people. We've got to vote Republican in every single category, in every single district. We've got to turn this over, or it's going to be corrupt for the next 100 years. You decide. I'm Brian Lauro. My website's brianlaurosenate.com. Please vote for me.
Thank you.
Take it with you.
Our 2 candidates for Senate District 25, Chris Lee and Brian Laurel. Another round of applause, please.
Put it on the box, please. Can. Thank you.
Our next candidate is running for Senate District 9, Michael Carrick, who is here this evening. Stanley Chang is not able to be here. He had a conference in Virginia, and because of COVID-19 issues, he was not able to return on time. So Michael, this is an opportunity for the community to get to know you. Pick up a microphone, please. And we're going to ask you 3 questions and then allow you an opportunity to provide a closing statement. First question. The governor extended his use of emergency powers past the 60-day limit. Is this an issue that the Senate needs to address in the coming term? Why or why not?
It's outrageous. There's absolutely no justification for the governor to extend emergency powers beyond what is statutorily limited. And we've seen over the past 2 years the diminution of our constitutional government. And it's very concerning to me, and it's very concerning to a lot of folks, in that we've essentially given over power to one individual without any checks and balances, which is unconscionable. It's unconscionable on a number of fronts, mostly because when one person has virtually absolute power over what happens in the state, then many of us suffer the consequences of. Is that better?
Yeah, WebEx can't hear you, so you gotta put it like really right up, yeah.
All right, is that a little better?
Much better.
All right, I'm so sorry. I'm soft-spoken. In any event, so the problem with that is that we actually have a constitution, and the Constitution dictates who does what, when, where, how, and why. And when we have a governor who takes it upon himself to institute and implement laws, criminal laws, that impact people in many different ways, some of which are unknown to this very day, it's not a good situation, period. It completely cuts against our constitutional structure.
Thank you. Our second question. What do you feel should be the future of astronomy in Hawaii?
Are you asking about the TMT?
Yes.
Okay, my belief is that the first people who came to Hawaii would be blown away if they could see the technology that we have developed over time. And I sincerely believe that those individuals would have taken that technology and used it to benefit that then existing society, to learn and to prosper and to make things better. And I don't see any reason to believe that presently the individuals who would be involved in that situation would do anything different other than to make it purposeful and productive and to improve society through knowledge. And I don't see how we can forego the opportunity in order to move forward with respect to our ability to understand the universe. Because we're all going to benefit from that in one way, shape, or form. And it would be a shame to miss out on that opportunity. Having said that, this must be done in a very respectful manner, taking into consideration all individuals and all groups who have a stake in the outcome of whatever project comes forward. So in a nutshell, I completely and absolutely support the telescope. And I hope that between our government officials and individuals who have concerns about Native Hawaiian rights, that there can be an agreement of some sort where we can all get on the same page.
Thank you. The third question. What are your plans for supporting local agriculture so that Hawaii can be more self-sustaining?
Well, the first thing we need to do is find some land, because we have a lot of land, but the land isn't really being put to its best use. And I think if there's a way that we can get the government on board and loosen up some restrictions and loosen up some permitting and loosen up those things that are hampering our ability to make the best use of the land, particularly if that best use is agriculture. Now, not everything is suitable for agriculture, obviously. However, there are certain pockets, certain places, certain things that can be done in order to take advantage of our valuable resources. We have sunshine and beauty all year round. It's the perfect place. It's a heaven to grow agriculture of all kinds. And to miss out on that opportunity is unfortunate for all of us. So ultimately, what I'd like to see is that we take a serious look at land that's lying fallow in order to see whether that land can be used in a productive manner in order to further agricultural prospects, whether it be papaya, pineapple, whatever it is. We have a beautiful environment and we have a lot of land that's underutilized right now. And it's shameful, quite frankly. And we really need to consider putting that land to use. And I think it would benefit the Hawaiian community if it could take the lead in doing so.
All right. Thank you, Michael. And may we have a closing statement from you that explains why the voters should choose you over your opponent?
Sure. I don't know if any of you see me sign waving on Kalaniano. I do it frequently. Hey, there we go. All right. So one of the things that when I sign wave, occasionally I'm shocked and startled when I get a blast of a horn. But the startle immediately turns from a startle into a pleasant surprise and ultimately happiness. And that is the essence of my campaign. I have said, if you look at the Civil Beat and the Honolulu Star Advertiser questionnaires, I've said some startling things to some people. But I think in doing so, people will be pleasantly surprised insofar as I have different positions, different ideas, and different plans for our state that I think can clearly come to fruition if we can come together as a community and find a little love for each other and find some patience and kindness among each other instead of fracture. And I believe that that will go a long way to helping solve many of the problems that we have. There is diversity, which is fantastic, unless and until it becomes competitive and headbutting. And I think if we just get together with a little patience and kindness, we can focus on the real issues that need to be addressed, some of which we discussed today. And in doing so, I think we'll find that we have a stronger community. And I'm getting the stop 00
Yes,
time.
time is up.
So I'm going to cut it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael Parrish. Michael Parrish is running for Senate District 9. His opponent is Stanley Chang. Thank you very much, Michael.
Thank you.
And if we could call up the candidates for City Council District 4, Tommy Waters and Kaleo Nakoa. All right, we're going to start. Tommy, I'll have you field the first question. The Honolulu Police Department has hundreds of vacancies and insufficient recruitment, which impacts our rising crime rates and puts our officers and citizens at risk. If elected, how will you address this issue?
Well, thank you so much. First and foremost, thank you all for being here, and thank you, Kaleo, for coming out and stepping up and running, and to all the candidates for that matter. And those of us who are actually running knows that it's not an easy job, and you neighborhood board members who also run know that it's not an easy job to do. But it is satisfying. And if you're fortunate enough to win, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. When you actually bring things to fruition, you solve these problems. HPD, it's 329 uniform officers short. 329, right? That's terrible. So what we did this year, we put in $312 million towards HPD. There was a push to defund the police. I came right here in this cafeteria, 250 people, and they said, no, we support our police, and I agree. That's why we approved a 20% raise to our police officers. Now, a starting police officer is going to make $72,000 right out of high school, and I'm hoping we can get out there and recruit more qualified police officers. You know, go into the university system and go get people graduating from college and recruit them to be our police officers. We want intelligent, good, honest police officers, like any other profession. But you gotta pay them because they're getting recruited out of state because the retirement is better there. We recognize that, but here's the problem, folks. We gotta find that extra money, right? That's the hard part because we want to pay our firefighters more. We have a problem with the Department of Planning and Permitting. These guys who are reviewing our permits, everybody has a problem with DPP. These guys are making $35,000 a year. Of course they're going home at 4:30, right? But anyway, that's another issue. I'm talking other than HPD, but thank you.
All right, Kaleo, same question. Honolulu Police Department has hundreds of vacancies and insufficient recruitment, and that impacts our crime rates, etc. So if elected, how will you address this issue?
First of all, how's it? My name is Kaleo Nakua. I'm running for City Council District 4. Tommy's the incumbent. First of all, it's not just HPD. It's all the first responders that are being affected by this. You know, the city takes so long to hire their people. I know, because I tried to apply for HPD before I got out of the Coast Guard. And the process takes forever. So what happens is all these guys who take the test, they end up finding a better job, and now they don't want to do HPD, especially with all the criticism going on. You know, the city, they passed a bill for lifeguards to be working from sunrise to sunset. What happens? All these guys go out, get all their certifications, they take the physical fitness test, and then for a month or two, crickets. They don't hear anything. So they move on. They go on to another job where they can get paid right away. So the process is like HFD. I took the test in August. What, tomorrow or the other day next day is gonna be October, and we haven't heard anything yet. So it's not about budgets, because if it was about budgets, then let's cut out the parking fees, right? We just seen it, $11.7 million goes into the city paid parking fees. The city's only making back $6 million. They're losing $4 million. What do they want to do? They want to charge you guys double and triple. They want to cite you guys more. Take HPD off the streets so that they can cite you guys for parking illegally. And guess what? We'll be rich. That's the quote, right? No. See, what they do is, oh, we don't have enough money. We're going to take it out of your pockets. So that's what needs to stop. All this jib-jab about we don't have money. No. Money's being mismanaged. And the people are being mismanaged. The process for the city is taking too long, and there's no accountability, and that's where this needs to stop.
All right, thank you. Our next question, Kaleo, you will respond to first. Camilo Nui Valley is home to many small farms and nurseries. However, their leases expire in 2025. Would you support maintaining the current zoning for this area for agriculture and providing resources for agricultural initiatives? If so, explain how you would proceed.
How would I proceed? Get these guys out that keep saying affordable housing. Every campaign season, you guys gonna hear affordable housing. We're gonna build 1,000 homes on every acre along the rail for affordable housing. That complex over there with the nice shiny windows, guess what? That was affordable housing. 2 years later, all these people who couldn't afford it, they're out. Because what happens, they sell the building to another person or another developer, and price goes up. So affordable housing is a sham. You guys want affordable housing? How about we word it to housing that's affordable? So let's talk about agriculture, right? The first reason why I got onto the neighborhood board is because Stanley Chan kept talking about we need a bill, we need a bill. What we need to do is take care of Hawaii. You guys heard Mark say, if this road goes out, we're screwed. But we're gonna build a higher bridge. Higher bridge, roads are down here. What does that do? Nothing. That wastes your money. That's not fixing the infrastructure. That's throwing money where it doesn't need to go. What we need to do is make sure we take care of our circle. And we talked about this. There's no emergency services here. That road gets shut down over there by Makapu, we're out. The road over here, Kalanianoli, during flooding, we're out. So all this talk about fixing the infrastructure, how long you been in? 10 years? How long you been in? Over 10 years? Nothing's getting done. Are you guys tired of wasting your money? Are you guys tired of, paying them the money to say we need more money? No, I'm over it. I'm telling you right now, I'm trying to keep my cool. But I'm tired because that's why we're getting priced out. And for agriculture, for Camilo Nui, I'll always stand with them. I'll fight with them. Whoever wants to fight, we'll fight. But guess what? We can't do it because the system, the process, is not allowing us to be self-sustainable because it takes money out of their pockets. Thank you.
Same question. Camilo Nui Valley, home to many small farms and nurseries, but their leases expire in 2025. Do you support maintaining the current zoning for the area and providing resources for agricultural initiatives? And if so, explain how you would proceed.
So I support farming and I support farmers. Part of the problem is the land is so darn expensive that it's not feasible for farmers to farm. But get this, guys, and this is why we have to support farming. We import 90% of our food to Hawaii. 80% of that is consumed right here on Oahu. And we only have 3 days of food supply if a natural disaster were to happen. Can you imagine if we don't have food and we're not growing our own food? So the city council did this year. We put in $5 million for grants for farmers, local farmers. Grants, that's free money to help them farm, right? So I support keeping ag land. And that includes our valley right here in Hawaii Kai. We just built with Bill 10. I brought it. I wasn't sure if it was going to come up today. But it talks about agricultural land and agricultural uses. This is a 270-page bill that people, you may have read in Civil Beat today, where we talked about, I put a hold on it because it was changing how you would use agricultural land, right? We were trying to say that if you have ag land, you have to farm. Because you got all these gentleman farms, like the Waimanalo. They say they're farming, but they're growing tea leaves and areca palms. They're not farming, you guys. That's the kind of stuff we got to watch out for. And be strong and look at legislation. This is a 270-page bill. I call it a Christmas tree bill. You can sneak in all kinds of stuff into Christmas tree bills. And unless you read it, you'll never know. Unless you go through it with a fine-tooth comb, you'll never know. And people vote on this stuff all the time, right? I mean, I'm a lawyer. In law school, we had to read and read and read, and my eyes went bad because of that. But that's what I do every day. This job is an 80-hour-a-week job. And unless you're willing to do that,
Thank you.
don't apply. Thank you.
All right. Next question, and Tommy, you will field this one first. How would you address the current housing crisis? And can you describe 2 ways you would address this if elected or re-elected?
Yes, absolutely. I do want to point out that Kalea did say something very important earlier. The Human Resource Department in the city and county of Honolulu is broken. It takes a year for us to fill these jobs. And we have 3,000 vacancies, you guys. 3,000. When you wonder why the grass isn't getting cut and the garbage in the parks aren't getting cleaned and whatnot, we got good workers in the city, but we have so many vacancies. And he's right. He's right. He has personal experience about how it takes so long. But anyway, affordable housing, right? My idea is we got a bunch of money from the federal government called the American Rescue Plan. I wanted to, and I'm encouraging the mayor to use that money to buy land. Because the biggest impediment to affordable housing is the cost of the land, right? So you could take, once you buy the land, you could turn it over to a developer and say, hey, look, you have to build homes for workforce housing. Workforce housing. We talk about affordable housing, but that really is, you got to define what that means. And everybody talks about area median income, AMI, but nobody really knows what that means, right? Workforce housing. If you and your wife work at the city and county of Honolulu, that's workforce housing. We need to build for them. Build for local people. I'm the 5th of 6 kids. All my siblings moved to the mainland. 3 of us went to Kamehameha schools. 1 sister went to Kaiser. 2 went to Castle. I'm the only one left. Partly it's because I'm a lawyer, but they can't afford to live here. My sisters want to come home. They can't, right? Incentivize for the developers. And what we're doing too, Bill 1, that the mayor's bill, right? We said you don't have to do sewer hookups. You don't have to pay for permit fees if you build for local people and affordable housing. And then we put in, this city council put in $200 million for affordable housing this year. And I'm encouraging the mayor to use it. Thank you.
All right, same question, Kaleo. How would you address the current housing crisis? And describe at least 2 ways you would address this issue if elected.
First of all, I heard the word developers come up maybe, 10 times, right? And that's what we're dealing with Luana Kai. All we're doing is saying the developers. We're not talking about the people. We're talking about the other people who are going to make money. We're going to spend money sell it to this guy so this guy can make money off the people. See, that's the problem, right? We want to give it to another entity. What we're doing is, hey, we're going to buy this property, we sell it to the developer. Developer's going to build townhomes. We're going to sell it to you for cheap. But what? Your mortgage is going to stay the same. What goes up? HOA. There's going to be an HOA. We're dealing with it now. So although they keep saying affordable, yeah, your mortgage might be affordable, but your HOA might match your mortgage. So what happens? It's not affordable anymore. HOA never goes down. HOA never stays the same. HOA goes up. And you keep selling to developers, it comes with the homeowners association. And that's how Hawaii's ran right now. We're getting priced out not because of our mortgage, but because HOA is pricing us out. And what happens? Nothing's getting done. You know, we're just giving money to other entities. So when we keep saying, you know what, we need to buy land, we need to do this. No, we need to get with the people. We need to stop selling to outside developers. We need to stop selling to absentee buyers. The buyers who come here and buy, and they don't even step foot in Hawaii. They don't even look at the property. But they're going to jack up the prices when the market goes high. And then guess what? None of us can afford it. You know, you keep hearing about Bill 10. There's another bill out there that's putting the setbacks 40 feet. There's a lot of generations in Waimanalo, a lot of generations along Kalanianaole Highway. Their houses are within that setback. What's going to happen? You're going to lose your land because the setback is going to push you back. Because there's a law that there's a bill that they're trying to pass. Not 40 feet. DPP is trying to ask for 60 feet. Next thing you know, everybody's going to be off the road. Everybody's going to be in the mountains. Because everybody is getting pushed off their land that was there for generations to come. Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, the last question. Please provide a closing statement describing why the voters should choose you over your opponent. Kaleo, you first.
Well, you guys heard it. I'm passionate about the people. I'm not passionate about the entities. I'm not passionate about the organization. I'm boots on the ground. I live through all the experiences. When I talk about it, I live it. I don't just talk. I talk with the experience. I'm not a career politician. I don't say I did something. I fixed the infrastructure. Guess what? It's not done. When I do something, there's going to be a plan in place that it lasts 20 years. That way, it doesn't come out of our pockets in 2 years. Oh, well, guess what? We didn't plan. We built the road in Kuli'o'o. It's nice. But the road is higher than the land that the owners have. So what happens when it rains? The water floods into the owners' yards. Do you know how I know that? Not because I studied Mark Hashem, but because I know people. I talked with the people. And they tell me, they talked to Mark Hashem. And they said, we need curbs here. Yeah, we'll do it. Next thing you know, they came home. Road was done. Hey, Mark, what happened to the curb? Oh, I don't know. Didn't fit in the budget. No, see, when you say something, you do something. And when I say something, I'm going to do it. And if you guys don't know, a brick wall ain't going to stop me. You guys heard it. A brick wall. I hit a brick wall. Sorry. Lahe Street, you got to wait. Because I hit a brick wall, I didn't know what to do. Oh, I don't want to get involved in this issue. That's not my issue. If you're in that seat, you're elected. You're elected by the people. There's no excuses of why. Why you cannot do your job. A brick wall, I will run through that brick wall. For you, for my kiki, for my family. Because it's way overdue. We need transparency, we need integrity, we need accountability, and we need someone with a backbone that will not say no to tough times. We don't need someone who will say, you know what, sorry, out of my expertise, no. We'll figure out a way and we'll work with the congressman to figure out Red Hill. We'll work with the state reps to get stuff done for Hawaii. Because all I hear is excuses. And every 4 years, you guys will get a solution.
Same question. Tommy, a closing statement describing why the voters should choose you over your opponent.
Okay, thank you so much. And again, thank you, Khalil, for stepping up and be willing to serve, because this is really public service, yeah? And anybody who doesn't believe that, then you shouldn't be running, really. But I won an election in 2019. It was a special election, and I beat an incumbent. And since then, I've taken this job really, really seriously and working with the community, and we've been able to achieve a lot. I just made a list as I was sitting in the parking lot at Mauna Loa Bay watching the sun go down. And I thought, okay, maybe I should talk about this. The Portlock Gate. That was up there for years. Back when John Yoshimura was the chair of the city council, we got it done working together. The Coco Head stairs that were falling apart. The city council worked with the community and funded the money and got the stairs fixed. Vava Malu, right? Vava Malu. Yeah, people talked about preserving that area. We did it without taxpayers' money by getting the stones donated by DLNR, and then Parks Department used their own tractors to do that. And it's saving that beach from the off-roaders. East Honolulu Sustainable Communities Plan. I worked with members of this board to get that done. And we got it done expeditiously. That thing was 20 years old, guys. And the Sustainable Communities Plan guides development for the next 10 years. I got 30 seconds. Wailupe Nature Preserve, you guys, we were able to do that while I was elected. The Kuli'o Nature Preserve, we were able to do that and save that in perpetuity, so you cannot build houses on that important cliff. China Walls Rescue Tube, the one you guys said, that was working with the Lions Club to get it done, to get permission to even put it there, right? You know, I authored 497 pieces of legislation. I got past 57% of the bills just from hard work, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Community members, candidates for City Council District Number 4, Tommy Waters and Kalea Nakoa. Another round of applause. Thank you for joining us. The last race that we're featuring tonight is the Congressional District 1. The candidates are Ed Case and Conrad Kress. Ed Case is not able to join us this evening, but we have Conrad Kress here, so it's an opportunity for us to get to know him better. Thank you. So I am going to be asking you a series of questions.
Okay.
All right. First question. All Americans should be concerned about the integrity of our elections. How will you ensure that our elections are fair and honest?
I would like to make sure that the dumpster that they're using in Kailua for collecting votes isn't there in the future. That's one point along the way. I'd also like to put forth a bill that would actually allow for an election holiday. Allow people to actually have the day off to go in and vote and simplify the system. There are a majority of countries out there that can do voting and counting all in one day, okay? And we can pattern ourselves. We're a very technologically proficient, superior country, and there's ways to do that. So that's one side.
All right. Next question. Conrad, what is your position on securing America's borders?
That's a really easy one. The rule of law is just that, it's the rule of law. But it's being usurped consistently and by unconstitutional authorities. And we have to remember the separation of powers, and we have to, again, go back to the rule of law. I honestly believe that if we went with constitutional authorities from which every ordinance, law, amendment derives its power from, 85–90% of the problems that are facing this nation, one of them being illegal immigration, would be satisfied.
What kind of action would you take to ensure that those laws are being followed?
Probably get Garland Merritt in front of me and start hitting them with some questions, and maybe take his job away from him and get somebody that's proficient for DOJ.
Okay. Conrad, if elected to Congress,
By the short hairs. What?
if elected to Congress, what will you do to expedite the removal of fuel from Red Hill?
Well, I know they have a task force up there. They've got an admiral that's working the program, and I'll get with the task force and the admiral and see where it is in the process and go for it. We have to also balance it off of national security. It's a very important issue. We can't just drain Indo-PACOM because we do have threats in this region. We have the Russians, we have the North Koreans, we have the Chinese Communist Party, and we have Kurds, violent extremist organizations. I've seen them in this theater. I spent 41 years in the military, in the Navy, in SEAL team, around the country, around about 70 or 80 different countries, okay? There are a lot of bad guys out there. I love the saying, at any given time, 1/3 of the world's population is awake, and some of them are up to no good. Next question.
Well, you've gone through those pretty quick.
They're easy.
Yes, all right.
Obey the law. Just do what the Constitution says. Obey the law. Life is good.
All right, a closing statement about why the voters should choose you over your opponent. And we'll give you another 30 seconds of this. Since your
Additional
other
30 seconds?
responses
Wow.
were so
Thanks so much.
close, so short.
Well, I'm a great guy, and I obey the rule of law. And so I'm running because of family, of legacy. A father of 2 daughters. I've got 5 grandkids here, little granddaughter now. And I'm seeing where the country's going at the federal level, and I do not like it. I don't like the executive branch, and somebody mentioned earlier about the overreach at the state level, but it's also happening at the federal level, and that's both parties. That's not just the present party. The last administration did it as well. Okay, we have separation of powers, executive, legislative, and judiciary. What has happened, Michael is the one who mentioned it, what has happened is the executives are committing policy. I was in the Horn of Africa, Southern Philippines, Iraq, you name it, and we have an encroachment, we have a party out there, the Chinese Communist Party, that is in our back door. In our back door, and we need to recognize it, and we have to deal with it. Okay? We can't just wish it away and whistle through the graveyard, because it is an emerging threat. It is a threat, and I'm going to just talk strength to power. Thanks.
I want to thank Conrad Kress. Another round of applause, please. I would like to thank all of the